So hopefully we can stay here. But thank you all for coming out to Orlando Devs. I know the rain kind of dampened the a lot of people stayed home because of the thunderstorms, but so we're really grateful that you guys came out. And well, for those of you, how many of you are new to Orlando Devs this time? All right, we've got quite a few of you. All right. So for those of you who don't know about us, we are an actual 501c3 nonprofit. We run this meetup, we run the Slack, and if you're not on the Slack, you should get on the Slack. See me after if you want to know how to get on. It's a great way to kind of interact with your fellow Orlando developers outside of the meetup. We also run a number of other meetups like the PHP meetup. Well, we sponsor a lot of other meetups like PHP meetup, Project Codex, and all kinds of other things, and do other activities for developers in the community. So, I will take Jacques helps me run these meetups. Jacques,
hey guys.
Yeah, so.
Who has done a quiz before at ODevs? Okay, a few of you. All right, so this for most of you, this will be something new. So we like to start off to get a little bit of energy. So we have this quiz. So there'll be different things about ODevs. I have the swag with me today. So this is there's only actually 5 of these left that we have in inventory. We're not going to print them again. The winner of the quiz today is going to get one of these. All right, and if it's a live stream one who plays, then they'll have to just slap me or something. But anyway, this is what's up for. No, you don't. I don't even have one. So. All right. So let me get this going here. I'm gonna have to shift to another tab because they don't build this right in PowerPoint, but that's okay. Refresh. All right. So how this works? So I'm gonna put this on the screen here. Okay, so you're going to go on your phones and you're going to go to the kahoot.it site, all right? And then you're going to enter in that game pin. And then once the names start slowing down, then we'll go ahead and get started. So we'll give you guys a minute to get into the game.
Yeah, no, I'm not using Wi-Fi.
If you're on live stream,
there's a Wi-Fi here. Wi-Fi.
Oh, you might not be able to see this. So if you're on live stream, it's 875-000 at kahoot.it if you want to join.
I converted a picture of the moon.
And I'm also looking for great questions, so if you think of good questions afterwards, Slack them to me. I'm at FU. I'm not cursing at you. That's my actual Slack.
Yeah. I sent you a lot of questions this month, so if the questions stink, blame me.
All right, we're gonna probably wrap it up right about now. Okay, let's go. So you're going to answer the question on your phone as far as, you're going to look up here for the answers and you're going to hit the one on your phone. So in SQL, to get match records from the left table and all records from the right table, which one of these would we use? The answers are up here and you're going to hit the corresponding color symbol on your phone. All right. A lot of you got it right. Very good. This is a repeat, so if you keep doing these and keep attending the meetups, you'll get a better score. All right. So FSDev. Where's FSDev? Oh, is that fair? All right. Let's keep going. All right. Who is considered the creator of Node.js? Is it John, Ryan, Brendan, or Kyle? I'm not going to try to pronounce these last All right, yeah, okay. About the same amount, got it right. And let's see who's on the Will Quattro. Where are you, Will? There you are. Knocked out FSW over there.
Also,
All right.
Brennan Ike did JavaScript with Brave.
I'm sorry?
Brennan Ike was the guy who created JavaScript and the Brave browser.
Yeah. Very good. All right, let's do another one. Linus Torvalds, the creator of Linux, was also the inventor of Git, Kubernetes, Nginx, or Eclipse.
After you press I'm gonna be Will.
Whoa, okay. You guys know this one.
And maybe my questions were too easy.
Well, it's also about speed.
What?
So,
7th place?
just getting all the answers correct doesn't guarantee that you win. But Will is still on the leaderboard, so you guys need to do a better job of knocking him out. So you want this hat. All right. The name ES6 is the common name for which ECMAScript specification? Is it ES 2015, ES 2016, ES 2017, or ES 2018?
So many people are faster than me on this stuff.
Everybody answered that one. That was an easy one too. It was fast. Oh.
It's a little bit tricky.
Oh, come on, Lee.
It's a trick question. All right. Oh, wow. Okay.
All right, well.
Will,
Will really wants this hat.
Yeah, you will. Did you stop answering so fast?
All right. How many messages have been sent on our Slack community since inception? Is it 27 million, 2.7 million, 270,000, or 10 million? It's like a game of the prices, right? Take a guess.
I have no idea myself.
Well, you know it's more than 10,000 because it starts eating up all the history after that. That's a problem. 2.7 million. That's how many chats we've had or messages on our Slack.
And it will.
Lee,
Yeah, it's me.
very nice. Lee's in the leaderboard. All right, let's see if Lee can stay in for the last question. Where did ODevs present the salary survey this year?
Okay, I'm gonna beat Lee.
Is it Valencia? Is it Full Sail Fortress? Is it Site Plan or Power DMS? One question might look a little different.
Yeah.
Or answer might look a little different.
Hey, Lee, I'm gonna beat you, man.
All right. And the winner is Lee. A round of applause to Lee for winning our quiz. And
You gave it the second place.
Okay. We'll hold it.
All right.
All right, so for we want obviously these meetups need sponsors, both help us afford food, afford all the kinds of things we pay for as well, and then we need a venue. So we wanted to take a moment to thank Full Sail, who have been a great supporter of our group for the last few months, giving us the space. As many of you know, if you came to older meetups, I mean, we had some great venues, but we've kind of outgrown them, so it's been nice of Full Sail to allow us to, the space that we can grow, the free parking. And if any of you aren't aware, Full Sail also has a full web development program, so if you want to go and continue your education in web development, you can do that here at Full Sail. And we also want to thank Blue Wave. They're up there. You guys want to say anything?
Bye.
So Blue Wave is I'm assuming you're looking for people to hire, right?
Always.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and talk.
Yeah, we'll put you on the spot. Sorry.
Yeah, so Blue Wave, we do venture capital and private equity backed recruiting for high growth technology startups, and we're always looking for developer talent at all times. So we're a little bit different in the fact that we have a different group of clients than you would get with your normal tech staffing per se. So just made sense to make sure this community was growing in Orlando, and we're happy to be here. Thanks.
And just so in case you don't know, Blue Wave are also the folks behind Tech and Beer, which is why you saw that banner out there. So if you haven't been to Tech and Beer, make it out to the next Tech and Beer. It's a great event. So I think they, it's more beer and tech maybe.
It's a little bit of both.
But it's a great event. It's a lot of fun, great networking opportunity for you. So some announcements. So some of the groups that we support, like Project Code Experience, Project Code Experience has, and Lee will tell you more about this in a bit, they have actually an intro to Python set of workshops. So the 13th is the first meetup, and then every Sunday after that, they're going to meet up. And I think it's hands-on and everything. So I'll let Lee tell you more about that. But that seems like a great opportunity if you're interested in learning Python to go to have that opportunity to do it for free. PHP, do you have one planned, Chris? Or it's okay.
Working on it.
Working on it. So come in, Android also. That's another group that we support. I wanted to mention Orlando IoT Meetup has a meetup the 7th at Starter Studio. And the next ODevs hasn't been announced officially yet, but we'll be announcing it very soon. It'll be September 9th. We're a week back because of Labor Day holiday, so a week later than we normally start. All right. Oh, and so I have one personally. I have an announcement I want to share with you all, something that I've been working on for months. So I'm going to this is a Flashback Conference. It's going to be here in Orlando, downtown. I've got some great speakers already lined up. I got already great sponsors and everything, so it's going to be full 2-day event all day. I've got speakers from Microsoft, from Netlify, and from coming from all around the country, and more speakers to be announced soon. So those tickets went on sale just today, this afternoon. You're all the first I've shared it with, and just so you know, this has been a lot of work behind the scenes, so I'm really excited about it. We're going to host it over at the Abbey, if any of you know where that is downtown. So it should be a really fun event. We have some great speakers coming. It's really inexpensive, especially I got 50 early bird tickets, which start at $149, so it's 2 days for $149. It's pretty inexpensive. So I'm hoping that some of y'all come out and support us there. You want to journal about it? Oh, yeah, I don't know why that came up. So anyway, check out cfe.dev, which is my site. And if you want to see some of the speakers and more information about the event, or if you want to buy tickets, I'd really appreciate it. So, our first talk is Lee Warrick. Where are you, Lee? All right, Lee's going to tell us about PWAs. How many of you know about PWAs already, at all? Anything? How many of you built a PWA already? All right, handful of you. All right. Well, come on down, Lee.
Let's give Lee a round of applause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Brian?
Code for Orlando has an event tomorrow.
Huh?
Code for Orlando has an event tomorrow.
Oh, Code for Orlando has an event tomorrow?
At Barry University.
Okay, so what's your name?
I'm not a representative of
okay.
it, but just they have
Where is it?
their community town hall at Barry University.
At Barry University. So Code for Orlando has an event apparently tomorrow at Barry University. One thing, while you get set up, go ahead and get set up. I forgot to ask that we usually do in the intro. Anybody hiring, other than obviously Blue Wave? So we've got some people hiring. So I'll get you in sec here. What are you hiring for? You want to take the mic in there.
We're hiring for front-end React and back-end Java.
Front-end React, okay. So, if you're looking for front-end React or back-end Java, come here. I'm sorry, I'm blocking your name. Here, your name?
Will at Sugar CRM.
Will at Sugar CRM. So, come see Will. And then, we got one over here.
Hey, I'm Chuck Robertson. I work for Conga. We're hiring for React primarily. We do have a Java backend, but I'm really kind of looking for senior level React development. So,
Cool.
yeah, interesting.
Lots of React folks. Got one more.
Hi, I'm Josh. I work here. I'm the program director for our technology programs for web and mobile development, and I actually have 3 faculty positions over now. So if you have I have 4 years of experience and a degree. Just let me know. We're hiring faculty if you want to contribute to the next level of junior developers.
Very cool. All right.
I'm gonna try and not to show my slide screen.
Is it not projecting?
Yeah, I think I do have a mic for it. Just gotta figure out.
It might be. We have issues with something. Was that working on the other one?
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I could have gone to that one.
You want to try maybe something with this?
That's the worst part. Oh, I thought, yeah. Oh, no, this is going into my computer. Yeah, so just to make sure that your audio output is, sometimes you have to force it to go out for HDMI. Oh, you're gonna.
We'll just do it.
Okay, we're good. Good.
Are you sharing another screen, maybe?
What's that?
I don't see that screen.
Yeah, this needed,
I see that screen. I think it's. Oh, it just closed up. Okay, never mind. Yeah, that one. Give me a second. It was there. It was showing. I'm not sure why it's not showing. And it has a space for it. I don't know. I guess you can try stop. It was showing, but then I don't know. Try stop and then start again. of anything you want?
How you moved 2 years ago? You love it here?
Or not? That's cool.
Yeah. I worked in Lake Worth and it was good there, but I was just married to Sherman was like not tech at all, so I got away from that. I was like, well,
Okay.
I'm gonna study tech and it's not that far.
I'll try it again.
I think I just had the idea of C++ and Java and everything.
What's the URL?
Well, no, it has working. Oh, that's not where it's fine. Whatever, you can go ahead. It's not- It was working. It's not working.
I wanted to Python meetup too.
It says it's recording.
Yeah, but it's not. Because I just have a blank screen. I don't. It's fine. I don't know. It's blank.
Appreciate the patience, everyone. We're just trying some new things with streaming.
It was working. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh, is it?
Oh, here we go. And now sure.
All right, yes.
You good?
I guess we're good.
Yeah.
Buffer time.
Thanks. We're going to like graduate.
Everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
How's everybody doing? Sorry about the
Full screen.
So, how many people have heard of PWAs? Does anybody know what the acronym stands for?
Progressive web app?
Okay, two people. Out of those 2 people, how many people know what those words even mean? One,
Kind of.
2, 3, kind of. Okay.
Programmers with attitude.
That's pretty good. So the whole point of this talk is to demystify PWAs, kind of explain what they are, what they're good for, and just kind of give everybody like a ground level understanding of PWAs. So my name's Lee Warrick. I'm a full stack JavaScript developer. I work with React, Vue, Node, Docker, AWS, and some other stuff. Some other things that I do, I run the Project Codex Meetup, which you can find at meetup.com at that address, also the Tech Junior podcast. We work really, really hard through those 2 things to kind of make explaining things and the beginner part of learning everything kind of easier for everybody. The hardest part of getting into a new technology is kind of just understanding the landscape of it and kind of getting that ground level understanding. And I feel like that doesn't change no matter how long you're doing development. So if that resonates with you, please check out this stuff or come ask me afterwards and we can talk about it. So that being said, what the heck is a PWA? You say progressive web app, what do those words even mean? So there's a lot of confusion surrounding progressive web apps. If you go on Google's website and you look up progressive web apps, you'll see some marketing and it says they're fast, reliable, engaging. Great, what does that mean? If you check out this quote from the good folks at Ionic, they say that a PWA is a web app that uses modern web capabilities to deliver an app-like experience to users. So maybe that's a little bit closer to what we're talking about, but even that doesn't really say anything, right? So if you look up the minimum requirements from Google, you'll get a list kind of like this. So it has to be served over HTTPS, has to look good and work on a mobile device or a tablet or a desktop. Does anybody know what that means? Nobody? So if you're building your front end with like React or something, whenever you click a link, it doesn't load a new page. It just gives you a new view. Okay, so you don't see that blank white screen for a second. And then each page of the app should have its own unique URL, so it's searchable. So this is a quote from me. PWAs are just SPAs, best practices, and a little bit of extra code. So I've kind of borrowed this this circle chart from a really great talk that I saw on PWAs. Does everybody know what an SPA is, or single page application? Show of hands. Front-end developers out there? Okay. So this is things that you would build with like React, Vue, Ember.js, Angular. So all those things, a lot of the stuff that you're probably already working with if you are working as a front-end developer somewhere at a company, to get your website or your app to a PWA is not really that much more than what you're already doing if you're working with those frameworks. So if you pull out the stuff that we talked about from that list, what you really need on top of that is just a manifest,
JSON file. You need to support install events. And then you may need to mess with a service worker. So service workers are super scary, but we'll get into that. So how do we actually build? And Google, they're very focused on the end user. So Chrome browser actually has installed. As far as a manifest, it's just a JSON file. So if anybody's worked with JSON before, piece of cake. Also, still a W3 draft. Browser compatibility is spotty at best, so you may have to add some more meta tags into your head tag to kind of overlap with the manifest file. And then service workers. How many people have tried or even messed with a service worker before? A couple people. Was it fun? No. So service workers are really tough, but we'll get into that. So first thing we can talk about is the install event. So Chrome will fire off a custom event. So just like an event listener you would use for like a click event or a scroll event or something like that. And then you can set up a listener and kind of catch that event. And then it's just a matter of, through your UI, when the user clicks install or some button or whatever that you want to have, you can then fire off that prompt event and it will go through the process of adding the app to the user's home screen. Chrome is really the only browser, like I said, that supports this. So you can still have a PWA, you can still have it install on your other devices. It's just if you're using like Firefox for Android, Opera, all those things, you're gonna have to go into the menu and then click add to home screen. But as things go on and these drafts get worked out, we'll probably see more standardized install events between them. So the manifest file. Usually, so it's basically kind of like a package JSON for your front end application for the browser. So it tells you, what the app is named, what kind of icons you have, what the theme colors are for it. And the browser uses this information whenever the user installs your application. So it'll theme like the address bar and stuff. And it'll also show you like a custom splash screen for your app whenever the user installs it. And those colors will match up with what you put here. What about service workers? So Dave Getz, who is the guy that made Flexbox Zombies, if anybody's familiar, he's got a great web-based game that you can play to learn about service workers. And he describes them as a powerful but tricky little script. And then if you go to Google and you read their definition, they say it's a JavaScript file that runs separately from the main browser thread, caching, retrieves resources. They say caching again. So, what does it actually do? It's a script that runs in the background that is going to help you return assets to the users whenever the network connection is spotty or they're requesting something over and over again. So it'll make your app a little bit faster and maybe save your bacon if the network drops out. While researching this, I found this really awesome tweet about service workers. So this guy just totally burns it down and says, to heck with them, I hate them. I tried to love them, but they're terrible. I had to look up what a bogon was. That's a joke from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. One person's read that book aside from me in the audience, so kudos, Joe. So my thing is, I'm not the smartest guy. I'm not going to dive into service worker code straight off the bat. Luckily, all of the big frameworks have created a solution for this already. So if you're working with Create React App, Angular CLI, or the Vue CLI, there's already a plugin for it. WordPress even has a plugin, if you can believe it. Gatsby, VuePress, Angular Universal, all your static site generators, they all have a plugin that you can just kind of drop in and it will enable a service worker for you. You can also go on MDN, so Mozilla Developers Network, and they have a bunch of examples for different types of service workers that will do different things if you're wanting to go deeper. They call it a cookbook, but it's like a bunch of different examples. And then there's also Workbox, which is Google's solution. It's an NPM package that you can include, which will set up a service worker for you. And then if you want to roll your own, I put up some links to the W3 draft and the Google Docs. Dive deep, good luck. They're pretty tough. So I've made a couple of PWAs at this point, like 3 or 4, just to try it. I'm going to talk about 2 that I made with Create React App and Gatsby. Is anybody fans out there? Netflix guy, thank you. So this is a to-do app that I made. At the bottom, I've got my Lighthouse scores. So if you're not familiar with Lighthouse, you open up Chrome DevTools, you can click on the Audits tab and run your website through like Google's built-in Chrome kind of like performance checker. So it'll tell you what's your performance like, are you accessible, are you following best practices, do you have the proper SEO, all the good stuff. So right out of the box, without touching any of that stuff, using Create React App and a material library, I got almost 100s across the board. All I had to do to actually make this React app a PWA is add the manifest file, add a couple of meta tags to the index.html, and then change this one line because they already include the service worker JavaScript file for you from unregister to register. And bam, it's ready to go. So we'll take a brief look at this. So this is my personal to-do list, don't laugh at me. And we're just gonna check out some of the dev tools. So here's the audits tab. You can run that to kind of check out your website's performance and best practices and all that good stuff. But what I want to talk about is the network tab. So service workers are supposed to help with caching and kind of returning resources and all that stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to click offline. And we're going to navigate around the site. So notice that when I clicked about, the screen didn't go white. We didn't try and load an HTML file. We didn't load any JavaScript. Everything's already there. So this is pretty standard SPA behavior. You can see Firebase in the background is trying to send off network requests because that's the back end to this. So we can go back and all that data is still there. We can mark something as complete. Notice that the app is still interactive, still works 100% offline. If we go back and restore the network, you can see these network requests at the bottom will actually fire off and complete. This isn't something that's built into service workers by default. You can probably emulate this behavior with a lot of work, but this is mostly due to Firebase. So they've got RxJS under the hood and a lot of like observables that are re-attempting to send off that request. But hey, I'm a dummy, I just installed the Firebase library and I get all this awesome behavior. Their company's app or anything, but as like a personal project.
But if you can't use like external APIs, it just sucks.
So yeah, service worker is not going to like create a new network connection for you. It's not going to cache every API that you're going to hit, and we'll get to another app like that. So here's another app that I made, this one with Gatsby. So this is my own translation app. It's another Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy joke for you. So all I had to do to make this Gatsby app from the starter, a PWA, was add these 2 plugins, which was like enabling 2 lines in the config. Point to the app icon, like where it is in the directory from the manifest. And that's it, ready to go. So this one does not work on Firebase. This works on an API that I borrowed from Google. Please don't tell them. It's actually stolen from the Google Translate plugin, browser extension.
Not stolen.
Borrowed. Borrowed. Okay. Please don't cease and desist me, Google. So there we go. I don't know if this will play. I guess not. I don't know how the audio is set up for this, but normally clicking that button using browser APIs will play that audio back for you. But moral of the story, let's go and turn the network off again. So if we send this request off, notice we'll just get a red failed. There's no magic happening, the service worker didn't do anything. What it's really good for is for serving like pictures, scripts, static assets. It's not going to emulate, an API that you're trying to hit for your app. So they're going to get better as time goes on, but it's not, a perfect solution at this point. So let's talk about the benefits and kind of some statistics that people have dug up about PWAs, or for the business people in the audience. How do I convince my boss to let me do a PWA? So if you go ahead and make a progressive web app, what do you actually get? So remember, we're talking about an SPA, like React, Vue, Angular, all that stuff. There's a couple of extra things that you have to hit: serve over HTTPS, which you're probably doing anyway, add a manifest, catch an install event, have an icon, have a service worker. So you get that app-like experience without actually writing a native app. It'll be discoverable on search engines. So a native app you can't find it on Google, right? You got to go into the Play Store or the App Store and actually find it, install it, all that. You may get some repeat traffic through people installing your PWA to their home screen, which you might not have gotten if you buried everything in a native app. And you may get a little bit of offline usability if you do that extra work. What you're not going to get is a native app. You're not going to get into the iOS App Store, but you can get into the Play Store because Google loves PWAs. You won't get access to native mobile APIs, so like the fingerprint scanner or like the phone, that sort of thing. You're still going to need to use native code for that or write a bridge or something. And you're not going to be able to do anything beyond what JavaScript can do, but come on, that's a lot at this point. So,
Windows Store too.
yes, actually, thank you.
Tinder too.
Hold on, Tinder.
Tinder did a PWA.
Oh, okay. Tell me more about Tinder. So, if you're trying to convince your boss, like, hey, we should do a PWA, we should take the time, here's some stats from pwastats.com. So Pinterest built a PWA. They increased engagements by 60%, saw a 44% increase in ad revenue, and time on the site increased by 40%. Twitter Lite saw a 20% reduction in bounce rate. Does anybody know what bounce rate is?
No events.
Want to tell?
Just load
how quickly somebody leaves the page from when they land on it.
Yeah, exactly. So people were less likely to leave the page, which is super important for your company and your job and your livelihood. So if you're this person that's like, nah, we'll just do a native app, I got some interesting statistics for you. Most smartphone users download 0 apps a month, so none. They don't download any. They don't want your native app. 80% of apps that are uninstalled within 1 week of being installed. So they download it, they're like, oh, I hate this, get rid of it. 25% of those after a single use, which is pretty terrible. But despite those numbers, there's a 20% increase in mobile sales and revenue. So people are spending more time on phones, they're just not interacting with that device through a native app. Here's some more stats for you. There's a really good infographic from App Institute. Jumia is an African e-commerce site. They saw a 12-time increase in mobile users and a 50% reduction in bounce rate. So imagine Africa, probably spotty network connections, slower speeds, not the best devices that they're on. These things really helped with their business sense. This other one's very interesting. A PWA loads 15 times faster than a native app. So 40 seconds to load and open a native app versus probably 5 for a PWA. So people can get onto your site faster and be engaging with your content. So when does a PWA actually make sense over a regular SPA or just a website? So you want app-like behavior, but you don't need any native APIs. You may want to have your users on your site or your app repeatedly. So they're going to be interacting with it over and over again. It's really easy to do that through an icon on the home screen versus digging in their bookmarks on their mobile device. And maybe you'd like to try and cover some offline capabilities. So some good examples that I came up with for this. It would be like if you're traveling around New York or something, if there was a subway map native app, it would take, a while to download it, it takes a while to fire it up. You just want to click an icon and look at the map. Oh man, which line do I jump on? Another good example could be like a Movie Times app. So you're not getting a whole lot of functionality. You don't need fingerprint scanner or any of that stuff. It's basically a website. You just want to be able to tap it, look up the times for reference, and be done with it. So it's really good user experience. Or the third one, anytime that you said, really, I have to install an app for this, come on. So if you're ever saying that or asking yourself that question, maybe think, hey, would this maybe be better as just a website or a PWA? So some final thoughts for me. PWAs are becoming more and more popular. I think the use case is really growing for them. So it's less of an if and more of a when. So maybe keep your eyes peeled for more PWA stuff coming your way. Browser support, as always, is going to get better and better. And from what I've read, there's not many downsides to implementing a PWA. You may spend a little bit of development time, but it's not like adding a service worker or anything is going to tank your site or cause a bunch of errors or anything like that. The only thing that I read was at some point there was like an IE version that had problems with service workers. But who hasn't had problems with IE? Any hands? No, okay. So PWAs are an incredible opportunity to make user experiences better today. Thank you. I'll open it up for questions. If you want to get a hold of me or talk to me, you can find me at my website or my email address. Check out my podcast, please. Found a really good joke on Twitter that's like, if I ever see somebody that I haven't met, I just say like, hey, I love the podcast, and I haven't been wrong yet. So, yes, you had a question?
Yeah, I haven't worked with PWAs before, but when I think of when you said service workers are usually meant for assets, and assets can be large sometimes, like pictures. So how do you get around managing that memory for caching or for loading up those?
So typically nowadays, you're going to be dealing with that anyway through performance on your regular site. So you're going to have to worry about the size of your pictures, your caching strategy. Service workers can help with some of that, but it's not like a service worker is going to let you have a 10 megabyte image, for instance. You're still going to want to watch that cache size because all of that JavaScript and assets and stuff has to load. Did that answer your question? Kind of, sorry. Joe?
Sorry, I just want to tag on that. I've got a little PWA that loads podcast files incidentally, and some of those things go up over 100 megs. We're able to cache with the service worker, no problems. I haven't found an official limit in the PWA. There's no real spec or anything for it, so I haven't found any sort of limit, but it's been great. We've been able to download many hundreds of megabytes, even with individual files, and it's been great.
Is it okay if I pile onto that?
No, please, go ahead.
So we had an app at Netflix for internal management of artwork. What we ended up doing was using very low-res versions of the images that would load the thumbnails, and then we offloaded to the service workers who load the larger image. The nice thing that we got there is we didn't actually have to load the image tag to get the image data, so we could cancel things. If the user was scrolling really fast and we started loading 100 images, and then they scrolled again, we could cancel all of those huge file downloads and load the next set. So you'll see stuff like that with servers.
Yeah, that functionality is built into things like Gatsby. They've got a lot of work that they've done to handle large images and stuff. And they'll put that blurred version in for you, and then kind of like as the user is scrolling, they're looking for where their mouse is at. So you don't have to go do all that work manually. Sometimes you can find solutions for that.
You mentioned fingerprints as something that you can't do. It's a little bit tangential, but are you familiar with the current state of WebAuthn, and do you have any idea how long it might be before fingerprints might be a thing that we can do in PWAs?
That's totally separate from PWAs. It's like a different API in the browser. So you would have to check out like caniuse.com and see where that's at, or check out the W3 draft to see how far along that is. But I know that there's a lot of innovation driving towards the direction of making PWAs more and more powerful, making browsers in general more and more powerful. So like that app that you saw, Babelfish, All of that stuff is done through the browser, so it can listen to audio, it can play back audio. You can even get access to the camera on your device. All these APIs are just getting better and better, so WebAuth, like those, is just going to improve as time goes on. But I couldn't give you I don't work for Google or Apple or anything, so I don't know. Also, Brian mentioned that PWAs can be installed on a desktop. If you're using Chrome, you can get the icon on your actual desktop device, and soon in the latest version of Chrome, you'll be able to see like a little install button in the URL bar, so your users can get onto your app and install it, not just through their mobile phone, but also through the desktop. So things are just getting better and better with PWAs.
Awesome, thank you, Lee. Good talk. I'm a fan of PWAs. I'm one of those people who will not install your app, generally speaking. I have a rule on my phone. Very few companies I find are app-worthy, is what I say. So, I'm looking at you, LinkedIn. So, all right. So next up, we got Brian Gates. Where are you, Brian? Those of you who've been coming to Orlando Devs for a while may know Brian. He's spoken here before. I have. And we still invite him back.
Do you want to go right away or have the?
No, you're all good.
Okay, yeah, I'm good. You can grab that. So we can, yeah, we can take Oh yeah. Just learning and actually, let me double check that.
All right. Well, just take a minute. I think there's still some pizza and some soda left, and chips and popcorn and all the goodies. You should be able to. If you want to grab something, we'll get started in just a minute.
I'm not a good boy.
All right, let's give it up for Brian.
Thank you, Jacques. Hi, I'm Brian Gates. What I lack in color and fonts, I'll try to make up in numbers. Speaking of the last presentation, everybody enjoy Lee's talk on PWAs? Everybody learned something about PWAs? Show of hands if you learned something. Okay, good. Anytime I give a talk, I like to preface talks at Meetup by saying, you need to meet somebody, otherwise this is just an up. So before we do anything else, before we get into my stuff, I want you to find someone near you who you don't know yet, maybe somebody next to you, somebody behind you. If you're hiding in the back and you don't want to turn your back on the developers, go forward, introduce yourself, and say the thing that you learned about PWAs. Share a thing you just learned.
Yeah, I got this. Last year, NASA was running this thing called Space Apps Challenge, and so the local Space Apps Challenge, like a partner, some business called Lotus Creative, came by and just gave everyone these things, and he was there too, so he got one. But in order to like reprogram it, you have to have like 1 second of like plugging it in, pressing the reset button, switching it on, making sure you get into Arduino, and then and I did it, right? So we just did it with this one too.
So you're able to hack because they flash their own firmware on it and stuff.
Yeah.
So is it an actual game, or can you pass anything with it?
So
All right, everybody learned a lot about PWAs.
I made it movable, but I also made the sprite to show the beacon where they landed.
Oh, dope.
Okay, so now on to my stuff and a little bit about learning in general. I have been involved in education for a very long time. I started learning stuff myself back in the 70s, because I'm an older person. But I've taught public high school. If you learn nothing else from me, don't ever teach public high school. I taught at the Iron Yard, Orlando's first in-person boot camp for the whole time that it was open, and had a lot of great students who have gone on to wonderful things, and I continue to be interested in helping people learn stuff, and that's why I'm here right now. Short overview of the kind of things I want to talk about in learning. You need to find time to learn. You got to focus. Fight forgetting, forgive your failures, and last but certainly not least, fuck around a little bit. I can say that in school, right? I should have checked before with the administration.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Don't want to get my detention, go on my permanent record and follow you around forever. So the first thing, finding time to learn. When you're in a school, you kind of don't appreciate the luxury that you have time to do this. Because once you're out, time is just like a rocket ship, always, and it only gets worse. So first, if you're going to find time, you have to understand where is the time going, because everybody gets 24 hours, what are you doing with yours? I'm drawing here on a couple books by a guy named Michal Newport, who's a computer science professor and a millennial, so he's not like this grumpy old, C developer from a long time ago. But he's written a handful of interesting books, and these two I've read, Deep Work and Digital Minimalism, are really have emphasis on those first couple topics of finding time and focus. And if I could distill down one of the primary lessons from those two books into just 5 words for you, it would be that social media is the devil. Because it's the product of very smart people who have looked at a lot of psychological research to figure out how can they steal your attention away for a very, very long time. And it's not only social media, it's a lot of stuff online. I grabbed some data from alexa.com of the number of minutes per user for some of the big sites that people visit online, and here's where a lot of time goes. This is minutes per user per day. Many, many minutes. I mean, not everybody goes to all of these sites, and if you do go to all of these sites, you need Jesus.
9 minutes.
And this is just the website. So apps
other things that you might be doing with your life that just take up big chunks of time, you almost certainly have some amount of time doing stuff that you don't really need to be doing, and I can tell who's giggling out there. But the moral is, if you're going to add time for something, like learning something new, you gotta take time away from something else. So it's important to just take stock of where is your time going right now and figure out which of these things do I really want to give up. There's lesson one. And then once you've kind of cleared space, the unfortunate thing about a lot of that stuff is that all those things start going, but they're not necessarily all in a row. A lot of times they're kind of sprinkled through your day and you hop back and forth and burn a lot of time that way. And so it's useful if you want to do something in a sustained manner, like educating yourself about something, to fuse time and to start up a habit. Probably the easiest way of doing that is to just jump on top of a habit you already have. Another interesting book I went through earlier this year called Atomic Habits has this interesting idea of habit stacking, which is basically saying you already have some number of habits, stuff that you're not going to give up. Probably you eat every day. I see someone eating right now, in fact, a couple. Probably you sleep, especially those of you not in school, sleeping every night. Bunch of other stuff that you're just going to keep doing, and those provide little kind of hooks. Now, how many JavaScript developers are in the room? Right? You have life cycle hooks for all your components and stuff. You have life cycle hooks for your own life. That's what I'm talking about here. So you can say, as soon as I eat dinner, I'm going to spend 5 minutes figuring out CSS Grid, just figuring out a little bit about how CSS Grid works. As soon as I open my mail, right before I get to that, I'm going to look into SQL so that I can get the next join question on Kahoot. And bear in mind, these are not giant sums of time that we're talking about to start out, right? I'm not saying first thing in the morning, I'm going to learn everything about observables and then get that marked off my to-do list. It's not the way that works. That's not effective. If you're starting a new habit, start small. Okay? Start with a little bit because you can build up over time. If you try to be a master right away, it's no good. This is one of the graphs from the Atomic Habits book of what happens 1% improvement every day. People use the word exponential all the time, and it gets overused and gets on my nerves because I'm a former math teacher in particular about that kind of thing. But they work out a little bit of math in book. If you were to get 1% better at something every day for 1 year, how much better do you end up at the end of that year? I'll take a response from the audience. 600%? 600%? I hear 5, I hear 6. Almost 38 times. You get almost 38 times better by the end of the year with 1% compounded every day over the course of the year. And during the course of the year, you don't really feel like you're getting anywhere. Okay, so you start a new habit, you just plug away a little bit every day, get locked into that process, and in a surprisingly short amount of time, you can go really far. Next up, there are a couple ways of approaching focus. This, I think, will result in aneurysms eventually. Resolution isn't quite good enough to see the vein in the forehead, but you know it's there. I'm not talking about that degree of focus because that just burns you out, okay? You're a lot better off just staying away from distractions. Is the kind of thing I'm talking about. Because there's just not that much willpower in the world. You only have so much. You know what happens 2 seconds after this GIF ends, right? He turns around and he literally bites Tom Hiddleston's head clean off of his body. Because nobody has an unlimited amount of willpower. You're much better off just not putting yourself into situations where you have to use your very limited amount of willpower. Which brings me to my second little summary of Cal Newport's books, which is turn off your damn phone. It's very simple. If you just don't have it on, it If you have it in another room, then you're freed kind of from just the twitching of maybe I have a notification, might be a message, might be on Slack, to Twitter, go look. And it feels uncomfortable for like the first day. You just kind of slap yourself in the pocket, you know, wishing. I mean, it's just thigh. It's terrible. But you break the habit pretty quickly.
They have the do not disturb button on a lot of them.
Do not disturb button is good. It's probably worth it to, again, take stock of everything that you're doing and figure out which things are not worth it. Even if I kind of enjoy them, what things am I not getting as much out as I'm putting into them? And then just uninstall those apps, and then you can be the kind of person who has nothing on your phone the way Brian does with his flip phone. Something that I haven't started yet, but I'm really seriously thinking about. These kind of blocking services have been around forever, and I think they have a justifiably bad reputation because they've been implemented poorly. At my employer, I can, on my company computer, I can get to Twitter and YouTube, but if I try to go to GitHub pages, I get flagged, which I think is a little off. But I appreciate the thought, and I think with something that you can install yourself and you can kind of whitelist and blacklist your own choice of things, because you know what stuff you really need to get to and what stuff you just as soon go without. I think you could do yourself a lot of good, and they seem to be getting a lot of positive press from people who say, yeah, it's helpful to me to just make it a little bit harder to do something that I know is going to be a big waste of time. Because a lot of these time sinks, if you just have a little obstacle, you're going to realize that it's not worth it. And yeah, I could go back in and I could reconfigure this thing to get to the site that I know is a big waste of time, but a waste of time, so I'll just all right, so once you've established a block of time for yourself, probably tied into another habit, you've eliminated some bad habit, you've improved your focus because you've got an environment where you don't have as many distractions. Next up, you actually need to learn some stuff. So this book, Make It Stick, has a lot of good advice on that subject, and that's where I got the idea of fighting forgetting, because in order to learn, you have to remember stuff. Memory, like rote memorization kind of has a bad reputation. I think it's unfair. I think it's been too demonized. You can probably memorize things without any degree of understanding, but generally what happens is you learn some amount of fundamentals so that you have an appreciation of higher level concepts. And some ways of getting to that point are different forms of practice. Spaced repetition is the idea that instead of cramming for something, you start out maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you hit something hard. And then you come back to it the next week, Tuesday, Friday. Spread it out a little bit more. So it's a little bit more work to pull it back out. Week after that, maybe you wait till Friday. You'll know when you remember because you can go longer period of time without forgetting stuff. It's easier at first, it's easier to forget at first, so you give yourself a very short interval so that you don't forget as much, but as your memory of a particular thing gets better, you can wait longer and longer. Varied practice is also important. Don't keep doing the exact same thing many times. If you're studying array methods, don't just say, I'm going to work with map and then map and then map and then map. Change stuff up a little bit. Maybe I'll do a map and then a reduce, and then an inline arrow function, and then use a callback function. Just do kind of a theme and variation so you get different looks at something. And finally, testing, another thing that has a very bad reputation. Testing, in what I'm talking about, is not getting a letter grade from somebody that again goes on your permanent record and determines your future. It's just you evaluating how much do you know at the moment. Because once you figure out what you know and what you don't, you know what you need to focus on in the future. A couple of apps, I actually have a couple apps on my phone. Duolingo is one of my favorites for this kind of thing. It embodies all of that last slide. How many people have played around with Duolingo learning different languages? Yeah, so you know. It's that kind of thing where you get a prompt every day to spend a couple minutes learning something. You get different kinds of questions. Sometimes it's pronounce words in foreign languages. Sometimes it translates from your language to another or from another to yours. All that kind of thing. Testing all the time. You get a little green happy owl if you get it right, and the little red bell of despair if you get it wrong. A really great example of this kind of thing, and it can kind of, even if you're not interested in learning language, I recommend it just to see what some of these strategies look like in practice. Or if you like the same kind of thing, but geared more towards software, who's played around with Enki before? Handful of people. It's very similar to Duolingo, but for software development. The big things are web and JavaScript, Git. I think they have a little SQL module as well. And it's the same kind of thing. You choose what subject you want. They'll present you with a little bit of kind of like coursework, a paragraph or so lecture, and then ask you a couple questions. And then ask you 5 or 10 questions based on the stuff that you've done so far in the days or weeks or months that you've been using the app. And as you get stuff right, then the app knows, well, we don't have to bother this person with this question. We'll ask the question that they got wrong last time. So another great example of all the strategies. Another useful strategy is the idea of chunking, which is a fun word to say. It's the idea that you can only think of so many things at once, and some things are really complicated and have a lot of different little moving pieces. So it's valuable to figure out how to just merge a bunch of things together into one topic. If you've ever had the experience of teaching someone how to write software, for example, you're familiar with this kind of process, where you explain how to write out the very first line of JavaScript or Java or C or whatever, where there are so many little details. You have no idea, if you've been doing it for a while, you forget how many different details there are, but there's a lot of stuff. You have to know functions, F-U-N-C,